So the first one is Primorsky Krai, and as you can see, it's pretty lush and green compared to the rest of Russia, and it's also pretty hilly. And the vegetation is like mostly dark green as opposed to not as green. So here it is, just the area around Vladivostok. You can see. Yeah, it's lush green hills is the main thing. Next up, we have Russky Island, which is just south of Vladivostok. It's got this distinct red-colored soil, kind of red, a bit orange, and you've also got the white car. And it looks pretty much like Primorsky, but the soil, yeah. And that is right here, just south of Vladivostok. Next up is an urban location, so it's Venino and the surrounding towns. It's pretty dead and winter coverage, as you can see. And that is the area around here. Yep. Next up is Sakhalin. Of course, you've got the famous Hokkaido cabbage, which can also be found on Sakhalin, mostly to the south. But yeah, it's pretty lush and green, similar to Primorsky. Next, probably the most unique and memorizable one of them all is Kamchatka. As you can see, you've got lots of lightly snow-capped mountains, this greyish sort of dirt, and lots of thin trees. And Kamchatka is this peninsula right here, not too much coverage, so it should be easily memorizable. And you also get this awesome coverage down south with a bit less leaves on the trees, and the leaves start turning a bit more orange. Now, another urban location is Yakutsk. You've got this really hazy coverage in most of the coverage, but it can look clear sometimes. Of course, a lot of Japanese cars as well. And it looks pretty busy as opposed to the other cities which have this type of fog coverage but are smaller. And Yakutsk is this city right here, pretty far north. Next up is, can't pronounce this name, but it's similar to Yakutsk, except the haze is a lot more dense and it looks a bit more dead with not as much people around. And that's this town over here, just northwest of Mirny, which is quite a bit away from Yakutsk. And the road connecting Mirny and this town is also pretty foggy, as you can see. Next is a pretty cool one. It's got this really foggy, dark-looking coverage and really dark, black-colored gravel on the road. And yeah, pretty cool. So that's on the P504, just around this mountain ridge west of this big one here. Next is Magadan. As you can see, it's got a bay to the south, which is pretty recognizable. And most of the houses are made of wood and are pretty small, except for a couple apartment buildings. And in Gen 3 coverage, you will see there's lots of ice in the bay, which is also pretty recognizable. Next is Altai, which is also a pretty nice location. You've got lots of exposed rock in the mountains, which can help distinguish between Primorsky, and usually a river running alongside the road. Moving west, we have the area around Novosibirsk, which in Gen 3 has a decent amount of snow coverage around it, and also a lot of thin birch trees. And this is the area here, just southwest of Novosibirsk, around here. Next we have Olkhon Island, and it's pretty Mongolian looking landscape with the lack of trees and barren hills and whatnot. And you can most of the time see the lake to the north and land after that. And yeah, it's pretty memorizable with the small villages and lack of trees. And this is the island here with the town of Kuzhyr right on it. It's in the middle of Baikal. Next, we have this road here, a pretty northern road in Yamalo-Nenets. And as you can see, there's not a lot of trees, and the trees that are here are pretty thin. And yeah, it's really sunny coverage, Gen 4 red car as well. Next up is Chelyabinsk and the numerous lakes that are commonly found near it. So as you can see, there's one here. Chelyabinsk is here, and on the map you can see a lot of small lakes near the city of Chelyabinsk. Next up is this cabbage, which looks similar to the Hokkaido cabbage, but they also have these white flowers growing out of them, and they are a little bit less rounded in shape. And from experience, they're most commonly found near St. Petersburg, just south around this area here, near the Baltics. Next up is the roads near Astrakhan. It can look pretty Mongolian with the lack of trees, but the trees that you do see are pretty small and thin, and it almost looks Mediterranean. And there's also a slight red tinge to the dirt, and it's also pretty dry. Next, we have two locations, both in the Caucasus, which are both covered by Gen 4. First one is the A158 with these amazing mountains, as you can see here. Pretty cool looking. That's this road here, up to Mount Elbrus near Chernios. And the second road does look pretty similar, with the snow-covered mountains. And that is this road here. Next is the Kola Peninsula. As you can see, there's lots of barren mountains. It does look a bit like Norway with its proximity. And yeah, small trees, pretty unique. The peninsula is here. Next, we have southern Russia and its snow coverage. So, mostly near the Caucasus, you get this winter coverage with many dead trees and snow on the ground. And that is pretty much this region here between Ukraine and Kazakhstan. Next up is another urban location. This one's also pretty dead looking. You got a lot of snow on the ground with these pretty sad looking houses and winter coverage, which is in the city of Vorkuta, all the way up here next to the Urals. Next up, we have a pole meta with Ulyanovsk Oblast, and it's white and red painted poles, which can commonly be seen, but not every single pole has them, so keep that in mind. Here, north of Samara, just near the river. And last but not least, we have a road with this pretty cool night or sunset coverage, and pretty recognizable once you get it. So that's this road here, just a small portion around this area. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed and learned something from this, and hopefully you can get some better Russian region guesses.